Hi, in this video, let me introduce you to one of the finest pieces of earlier Indian literature written in Old Tamil, which are collectively called as Sangam literature. Sangam literature is a collection of earlier literary works written in Old Tamil from around 3rd century BC to 2nd or 3rd century AD, which gives us a window of around 500 to 600 years. There are 26,500 plus lines of poetry in this corpus, and from this corpus I have chosen two poems, and I want to read these two poems aloud and share it with you, because for the sheer exotic effect that I get when I read these poems, I just want to share that with you. But before we read these poems, I want to point out that there are some phonetic properties of the language which would be very useful for you to, when you attempt to read the Roman transliteration. Please keep these phonetic properties in mind when you attempt to read them. Let's see. Number one, the language does not distinguish between unvoiced and voiced stop consonants, which means the sound pairs like ka, ga, ta, da, pa, ba are not treated as two different sounds but as variations of the same sound. And the phonetic context in which a particular sound would be voiced or unvoiced is determined, it occurs in complementary distribution, which means the context in which a sound would be voiced or unvoiced do not intersect with each other. You know clearly, in such and such context, it would be unvoiced, whereas in such and such context, it would be voiced. For example, in the beginning of a word, the stop consonant is always unvoiced, whereas in the intermediate intervocalic position, somewhere in the middle, it is always voiced. Second, vowel length is phonemic and moraic in nature, which means a short vowel stays as a short vowel and a long vowel stays as a long vowel. You can't change the length of the vowel by shifting the stress to some other syllable and then subsequently shortening the first vowel, which happens in English. We say photograph and then photography, stress shifts to T and the length of the vowel O is shortened now. That should not be attempted when you read the Roman transliteration of these poems. Short vowel and long vowel are articulated as such. Third, gemination of consonants is phonemic, which means whenever a consonant is written as double consonant, it has to be articulated as such because it produces a difference in meaning. For example, kani contrasts with kanni and ilai contrasts with illai, and so on. Vowel sounds are very simple. There are 5 basic vowel sounds and their longer counterparts are also there. So a, e, u, a, o, and their longer counterparts a, e, u, a, and o. And these sounds are pronounced as monophthongs, unlike English. For example, in English we say H-O-M-E is pronounced as home with O, which is like a diphthong. Whereas here, these vowels are pronounced as monophthongs, like plain single vowel. And the monophthongs A and O, both short and long variants, are allophones with ye and vo. So that also has to be kept in mind. And there are two sounds I and au, which are usually called as diphthongs, but in this language, it's pronounced almost like a free variant of I and au, almost like I and av. So I, au, I, au, I, av. These are the variations of the same sound. So it is not appropriate to call it purely as diphthong. Sometimes it is pronounced as a diphthong. Sometimes it is pronounced as a sequence of two vowels. Sometimes it is pronounced as one vowel followed by a semi-vowel followed by another vowel. So there are 3 different variations of the same sound. It also has to be kept in mind please pay attention to this when I read the poems. Then vowels more than 2 morae are also possible, which are indicated orthographically by an extra short vowel. For example, talai written as talai with wherever it has to be articulated for more than 2 morae, where prosodically the vowel is more than 3 morae long, it is indicated orthographically like this. Similarly, padum becomes padum. There is no distinction between va and wa. Choice is based on the phonetic context. And consonants with the dot below, such as na, ta, la, ra, or retroflex consonants, which are pronounced by curling the tongue far back and touching the upper roof of the mouth. These sounds are the exotic sounds that strikes the foreign ear whenever he hears the Indian accent for the first time. These sounds are extremely frequent in Dravidian languages and highly common in all Indian languages. Vowel oo is a euphonic sound which is added after stems ending with stop consonants. This is allophonic with a schwa sound u. So oo and u are variations of the same sound. Also, many times the vowels oo and e are pronounced much shorter than the expected one mora. So this requires more explanation, but I'm not going into that. Just remember that sometimes the vowels oo and e are pronounced much shorter than expected. There are three places of articulation of stops: dental, alveolar, and retroflex. In modern language, the alveolar variety merged with the rhotic sound ra, and alveolar plus rhotic sound, which is like tra in voiced and unvoiced variant. My own pronunciation convention here is the modern variation, not the reconstructed old sounds. These sounds are denoted as ra and tra with a line under the letters. Let's read out the poem aloud. ஆரம் தாழ்ந்த அணிகளர் மார்பின் தாழ்தோய் தடக்கை தகைமான் வழுதி வல்லை மன்ற நீனையந்தளித்தல் தேற்றாய் பெரும பொய்யே என்றும் காய்சனம் தவிராது கடலூர்பு எழுதரும் ஞாயிறு அணையை நண்பகைவர்க்கு திங்களணையை எம்மனோர்க்கே. Let's try and understand the poem line by line. ஆரம் தாழ்ந்த அணிகளர் மார்பின். Aram is garland. தாழ்ந்த comes down. அணிகிளர். Ani decorate. Kilar move around joyfully. Marbin off the chest. So somebody has got the chest which is decorated by the garland which moves around joyfully by coming down from maybe from neck. And then tal toy tadakkai. Tal is lower limb. Toy go and extend up to. Tadakkai long hand. Tagai man appropriately great. Tagai appropriate or proper. Man is greatness. Vazhuthi is one of the titles for the kings who come from Pandyan lineage or Pandyan dynasty. They're called as Vazhuthi, Kudumi, and many such titles are there. So this is one such title. What we basically understand is that the poet is addressing a king who is from Pandyan dynasty and who is appropriately called as great because of the qualities, the physical attributes that he ascribes to him. What are the attributes? He has got a chest which is adorned with garland which comes down from neck and plays around and moves around joyfully on his chest. So the garland moving around on his chest is indicative of his power. The garland shows his respectable position. And then he has got long hands which extend up to his knees. Tal toy tadakkai, which is like an expression which indicates that, whenever a poet describes that somebody has got long hands which extend up to knees, it is supposed to be indicative of the fact that he is a great warrior. This is one of the cliched expressions in Indian literature. In Tamil it is called as Tal Toi Tadakkai. In Sanskrit it is called as Ajanu Bahu. So Bahu is shoulder, Janu is lower limb. So hands extending from shoulder to lower limb is supposed to mean that somebody is a great warrior. So because of these qualities, the poet praises him as somebody who is appropriately considered as great. Oh, you Pandyan king, who is great because of these qualities, because of many qualities are there. These are some of the qualities which make you great, appropriately great. So after flattering him like this, I think he goes ahead and flatters further. He says, Vallai, oh, the great one. So not great one. Val is ability or capacity or strength is val. Vallai means you are capable. You are capable. Mandra, it's like a conjunction sort of. Mandra means, indeed and indeed. You are capable and indeed. Ni, you, nayand, out of love or out of desire. Alittal, to give. So what it means is that, oh, you are great at generously donating. The king is not a miser. He's a great donor. He donates his wealth and other things with people. He donates to people generously without without withholding himself out of miserliness. He's such a great donor. So he says, Vallai mandra neenayan nalittal tetrai, you do not know Peruma, oh the great one. Poye, poi is deceit, lies, falsehood. Poye, the very quality that you call as deceit or lie, endrum, ever, tetrai, you do not know Peruma, oh the great one. So he says, oh you, the great one, the king, you never know anything called as lie. You never know anything like deceit or falsehood. Very truthfully and generously, you give everything to people, and you're like a great donor. Then he goes ahead and says, Kai sinam. Kai is to burn, to afflict, to create suffering. That is Kai. Sinam. Sinam is anger. Taviradu, without any exception. Exceptionlessly, without any exception. Kadal. Kadal is sea or ocean, a large water body which cannot be crossed, is called as Kadal. Urbu. Urbu, by crawling or moving very slowly. Iru is to arise. Tarum is to give, to give appearance by arising, which means it appears slow. It appears, the sun arises and appears slowly by crawling through the ocean, and exceptionlessly, without any exception, it goes and afflicts with its anger. Sun is always compared in this geographical area. I mean, it's true in any geographical land, but in a tropical country like India, especially in South India, the sun is considered as an enemy for people. It comes and burns people with its anger. That's the imagery that is invoked often. So he says, Nyairu is sun. Oh, sun, the sun which arises from the ocean and crawls around very slowly, but comes out and without exception it burns everybody with its anger. Like that, anayai means you are like that, you are similar to that. Nin pagaivarku, nin, your pagaivarku, for rivals or enemies, for your enemies, you are like the sun which without exception arises slowly, crawls out from the ocean, and then burns or afflicts without any exception. With its anger, it burns people. So you are like that to your enemies. Whereas Tingal is moon. Anaye, you are like that. Emmanorke, for people like us. So Tingal or the moon is always compared with chillness or coolness or something which removes your suffering. Whereas sun is something which is considered as which creates affliction or suffering. You can only understand that. You can very well relate to that in a tropical country. So this person basically flatters the king, flatters the shit out of the king, and he wants to say, oh, you are the great person, oh, the great worthy king, you have such and such great qualities, you are like a sun to, in battlefield, you fight with your enemies so vigorously that you are like a sun to them, you give affliction to them without any exception. Whereas for people like us, for poets like us who come and present our works, you are like a cool moon which bestows its chillness upon people and removes their suffering. So that's pretty much, that sums up the meaning of the poem. So the meaning is given here. O greatly esteemed worthy, O Pandyan king, wearing garlands on your handsome chest, with large hands that touch your legs, you give, donate generously with love, O Lord. You do not accept lies. You are like the sun that rises from the ocean, never relenting in your fierce rage towards your enemies, but like the moon to people like me. Let's move to the next poem. This is one of the very famous poems. At least the first line is well known even today and used like a proverb in modern times. I like this poem. I'll just go ahead and read this poem. Yadum ure yavarum kelir teedum nandrum pirartharavara nodalum thanidalum avattoranna சாதலும் புதுவது அன்றே வாழ்தல் இனிதென மகிழ்நன்றுமிலமே முனிவின் இன்னாதெண்டலுமிலமே மின்னோடு வானம் தண்டுடி தலையை ஆனாது கல்புரு திறங்கும் மல்லல் பேரியாற்று நீர்வழிப் படுவும் புனைபோல் ஆறுயிர் முறைவழிப் படுவும் என்பது திறவோர் காட்சியின் தெளிந்தனமாகலின் மாட்சியில் பெரியோரை வியத்தலுமிலமே சிறியோரை இகழ்தல் அதனினுமிலமே. Let's try and understand this poem phrase by phrase or line by line. Yadum ure yavarum keler. Yadum, yadu means which thing, which thing. Yadum means whichever thing, which means everything. Ure, ur is a place of settlement or where you feel a sense of belonging. That is ur, where you have settled down. This is my place, you think, right? Such the homecoming place is called as ur. Yadum ure means every place is like our own place. Yavarum keler. Yavar means which people. Yavarum, whichever people, every people. Keler means friends or relatives or people who belong to you. So every place is like our own place, and every people is like our own people. Tidum nandrum pirar taravara. Tidu is something which is bad or evil or hurtful or painful to you. Nandru, which is good or auspicious or pleasant to you. Pirar tara, pirar, other people. Tara, by their giving. Vara, they do not come. So the hurt and joy that you experience are not given by others, even though they appear to be so. Nothing is given by others. Nothing is caused by others. Nodalum tanidalum avattoranna. Nodal, going through suffering. Tanidal, to be relieved from suffering. Avattoranna are similar to that. So the pain and the pleasure and the suffering and the relief from the suffering are all similar. Nothing is given by others. Nobody induces anything to you. It's you are going through it. Just take responsible for it. We take responsibility for that. Sadalum, dying, death. Puduvadu, something which is new. Andre, it is not so. Indeed, death is not something new to us. Valdal, living or life itself. Inidena, inidu means sweet. Ena, saying like that. Magilndu, with full joy and ecstasy. Magilndu andrum, like that. Ilame, we don't exist. Basically, what it means is that death is not something new. Sadalum puduvadu andre, death is not something new. Valdal inidana magilnandrum ilame. We do not think that living, because death is not something new and life is not something new. We don't think that life is so ecstatic and joyful and we get overwhelmed by life. We don't live like that. Munivin, out of anger or out of disappointment, innadu, it is bad. Oh, this is suffering. Like that, endalum, saying like that, ilame, we don't. So basically, the poet is saying is that death is not something new to us, nor is life. We don't think that life is so great and awesome and we'll just, whenever good times occur, we become overwhelmed by it and go ahead enjoying it too much. We don't live like that. Nor do we say whenever we go through suffering, we say, oh, it's painful, it's very bad. We don't say like that. We understand these things happen. Minnodu, how do these things happen? That will be described later. Minnodu, with lightning. Vanam means the sky. Tan tuli, tan is cold, tuli is drop, talai, giving birth to or originating. So, with lightning from the sky, cold drops originate. Anadu, without completing or without finishing its, without coming to an end. Anadu, kal porudu, kal is rock or stone. Porudu means to fight or to go and hit against it. Irangum, irangu is to make sound or to make noise. Mallal, strong, that which is full of strength. Periyat, peru is big. Aru is river. Periyat means of the big river. So basically, a big river which comes out with great noise, with a strong, huge river with goes and hits the rock with great noise and flows down continuously. What started off as a small drop, a small cold drop from the sky with lightning. So basically, what it is, what is seen today as a great rock, a great river, a huge river with make noise and goes and hits rocks, rocking over everywhere. That river, where did it come from? It come from a very small drop coming from the sky, a small drop, cold drop coming from the sky with lightning, fed by the lightning. It started off somewhere and it's taking its course like a river. That drop is today the big river. So similarly, things happen, everything is dependent on everything else. There's nothing which is happening independent of anything else. So you don't have to blame anything. It's almost like this Indian theme of karma or, things taking their own course, everything depending on everything else. That is suggested here. Vanam Tantuli Talai Anadu Kalpura Dirangum Mallal Periyattu. The big, huge river, strong river, which makes great noise and goes and hits the rock and flows continuously, started off from a small, cold drop originating from the sky, fed by the clouds. Such a river. In that river, Neer Vali, Neer, water, Vali is path, or the course, or the way in which something moves. Padum, it undergoes or gets influenced. Punai is a small raft, pole, similar to that raft. So a raft which is influenced in many ways by the course of the river, the course of the water which flows through that strong river. Similarly, Arvir, this precious life, the life which is so dear to us, Murai Vali Padum, Murai is the order or the righteousness. Things happen in a certain order in this universe. So Murai Vali, through the course of orderliness, through the course of order or righteousness, Padum, it's influenced or undergoes. This life which is so precious to us, is influenced by the order of the universe. Enbadu, such a thing, Turavor, the great ones or one who understood very well, able ones, Katriin, through their vision, Telindanam, we became clarified, we got clarified through their vision. Agalin, therefore, Marchil, during great times, in great times, Periore, the great ones, the big ones, Viyattalu we do not look at them with awe. Siriore Igaldal, the small ones, Igaldal, to look down upon them or to despise them. Adaninu milame, more so, we do not do so. So basically what they're saying is that the river, what looks like a big river today, came from as a small drop from the sky, and it has become a big river, goes and hits the rock and does whatever thing. That big river has got, the huge river has got water. In that water, it takes its own course, and that course influences a small raft which moves around in that river. Similarly, this precious life of ours is influenced by the course and the currents of life. This great fact we have understood from the knowledgeable ones, the wise ones have clarified these things to us. And because we have this wisdom, whenever something great happens, when somebody is really great, when somebody is really great, we don't look upon great people and look upon them with awe. Nor do we look down upon people who are lower than this, weak people. We don't look down upon them. More so, we don't look down upon them. That is the content of the poem. So the meaning is given in the next, you can see the meaning here. All towns are ours, everyone is our kin. Evil and goodness do not come to us because they are given by others, nor do suffering and the ending of suffering. Death is nothing new. We do not rejoice when living is sweet. When we suffer, we do not say that the living is miserable. Through the vision of those who have understood, we know that the precious life makes its way like a raft riding a powerful huge river that roars endlessly, fed by cold rains with bolts of lightning as it crashes against rocks. So, we are not awed by those who are great, much less we do not despise those who are weak.